And good morning, everybody, to this month's Cabinet meeting of Telford and Wrekin Council. As always, this is being recorded and broadcast on our social media channels. If I can ask members to mute themselves, and I'll call you in where you can unmute yourself to make a contribution. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence, but I do think that we are all here, so there'll be no apologies. We'll move on to item 2 then, which is the declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest on the items on the agenda? Nobody's indicating, so I'll take that as no. There's the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 10 in your packs, which have been previously circulated. Is everybody happy with those minutes?
Move them, Sean. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. I shall sign them in due course if there's no comments to the contrary. Okay, thank you. Item 4 then is leaders' announcements. Just a very brief update from me. I want to say a huge thank you to our NHS partners, our volunteers, our council staff, and the whole community for the vaccination effort that we are seeing here in Telford and Wrekin. It's been it got off to a very slow start, but I'm really impressed at the fact that we are now above the regional and national averages in terms of the rollout. But we can't rest on our laurels, and there has been lots of stories over the last 7 days of thousands of appointments at Telford International Centre not being filled. I've been contacted by volunteers who have been sent home early. I've been contacted by GPs that have been sent home early because of the problems with the national booking system. The vaccine is at Telford International Centre, as it is at various other centres across Telford and Wrekin. There's around 1,500 spaces available each and every day at the TIC, but people aren't being called through because the letters haven't landed onto their desks. And we do need a pragmatic approach by the government on this. Where there is availability, we shouldn't be turning people away from going to get their vaccine if they are eligible, simply because they haven't got a letter that's landed on their doorstep. And I know from speaking to various people that literally thousands of appointments are being wasted. Now, that doesn't mean to say that the vaccine is being wasted, because obviously the vaccine that's being used has got a longer shelf life, but it is an opportunity lost. It's an opportunity of that vaccine being in the arms and the bodies of people to offer protection, and therefore we should be moving everything, heaven and earth, to make sure that we speed ahead. And I do think the government do need to allow local decision making, so that we can make maximum use of the vaccines that we have available to us and the capacity. We all know that the Telford International Centre has a capacity of 10,000 jabs a day. So it's only operating at a fraction of its capacity anyway, and even that isn't being delivered at the moment. So we do need to press on. I'm raising this as our cabinet members and officers with the NHS and the government daily, but we will not sit back in public and not open our mouths on this, because this is something that the residents of Telford and Wrekin expect to be going it like clockwork, and that's what we want to do. And this is not just a moan and a complain. If the NHS or the government want us as a council to work to expedite this, to operate the national call system on a local level, then we're more than happy to do that. If they want us to send the letters out ourselves to residents so it's quicker and not dependent on national timescales, then we'll do that too. If they want us to ring people up who are eligible to go and get a vaccine, then we'll do that too. And I do think there has been a Whitehall top-down approach to this that is on the whole working in local areas, but there is unnecessary delays in the system. We all want to get these vaccines into people's arms so that we can return to a more normal way of living. So that offer I've made in private, and today by this statement I make it in public to the government and to the NHS locally. So thank you for that. We'll move on to item 5 then, which is the 2020-21 financial monitoring report, pages 11 to 36 in your pack, and I'll hand over to Councillor Ray Evans. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Leader. Cabinet, this is the regular update on our financial status. The main changes and significant variations are detailed in the report, and these are mainly due to the loss of revenue and additional income and increased costs incurred in relation to the pandemic. After continuing active budget management undertaken by the Cabinet and officers throughout the Council, The projected year-end pressure is currently estimated to be 20.55 million. This includes projected service pressures totaling 14.545 million, together with an estimate for potential losses in relation to council tax and business rates income of 6.1 million. This shortfall in corporate income collection will result in a deficit balance being carried forward for next year on the respective collection funds. However, given the high levels of uncertainty in the future, and in order to avoid increasing budget shortfalls in future years, we will continue with our plan to make provisions for this shortfall in the current year. When the government's national emergency response funding of just under 19 million is factored in, this leaves a current residual pressure of 1.58 million, which is a slightly improved position on what I reported to Cabinet in January. But it should be noted that this still does not take into account potential changes and impact of the latest lockdown. This future does not include any of the council's remaining budget contingency or applying the specific COVID-19 reserves set aside during the closure of 1920 accounts. This reserve should therefore be available to carry forward at the end of the year to support any residual financial challenges that are not covered by the funding announced by the government to support COVID-19 related costs. At the time of compiling this budget, the projected capital spend was 97% of the budget allocated. Members are asked to note the position members are asked to accept the recommendations in point 2 of the report.
Thank you, Ray. Is that seconded?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from Cabinet members?
How do you do this?
Richard?
Yes, thank you, Sean. Yeah, I mean, I sound like a record, but this goes on. But the government did say to do what you need to do to fight the pandemic, and they would put that funding in place. And we do know there's still 2 million shortfall from that. But also, we all know how the COVID-19 is impacting our communities in the fact of people's incomes and expenditure, and also the increased costs in adult social care and in children's services. And they are not recognising these cost pressures that every year councils face. And I do think it's time the government stopped talking about trying to do something to solve adult social care and actually did something about it. Because this is something that plays on people's minds every year, or their answer to it all is that the residents of Telford Wrekin should pay for it, and I think that's wrong.
Thank you, Richard. Bill?
Thank you, Sean. First of all, I'd just like to take the opportunity, if you give me just 2 seconds, to put my record of thanks to all those people that are involved with the vaccination process. And also with all those volunteers, and with also all the council staff this year that's not just through the pandemic, but trying to carry on doing their normal job. And also a big thanks again to all the volunteers locally that are helping out in every which way they can. So thank you for giving me time to do that. With regard to this year, big thanks particularly to the finance staff for trying to pull it all together, but also consciously aware that over their shoulders staff are having to look at potential job cuts because of the lack of funding, which I know is coming up more onto the second item. But it is hard for everybody when you think there's always pressures on everything you do all the time. And we're being asked, and now being asked rather, it's called on to do going above and beyond to help with this pandemic. So it is difficult for everybody. The government have pretty much nearly met now their commitment to try and fully fund. We are still short, but I'm hopeful that that will finally come through, and it should come through. They have a moral duty to everybody around here to fulfil the promises that they made. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. There's nobody else indicating on this item. Nigel, sorry.
Yeah, Thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously the government has recognised the pressures on council. There's been quite a lot of funding received by the council. It's coming up to 20 million now, and the thing is that in the revenue budget, some of the shortfalls will be covered by future grants, because things like loss of income from Arthog and the leisure centres will be able to recoup 80% of the lost revenue. So, I mean, there is more to come, and as has been acknowledged by the cabinet member, the situation compared to last time has improved. So, and that will continue. So, I think you know, sort of you know, I think the government have recognised the problems that all councils are in, and obviously we're in unprecedented times. So the thing is that some of these things do take a bit of while to get to get into the system.
Thank you, Nigel. There's no other comments on item 5. Did you want to come back, Ray, on anything?
No, Leader, thank you.
Okay, in which case it has been moved and it has been seconded. So for cabinet members, I will take your silence as approval. That's lovely. Okay, thank you very much. In which case we'll now move to item 6, which is the Service and Financial Planning Strategy, pages 37 to 320. Councillor Ray Evans.
And I'll be testing each of you on individual pages. Leader, members. The document before you is broadly the same as that presented to Cabinet on the 7th of February and has now been out to public consultation with partner organisation, and received comment from the Business and Finance and Audit committees. Members are invited to note the following broad pieces of information: that we are still waiting for the public health grant announcement from the government with a value of around 12 million. This is another reason why budgeting long-term, or in this case short-term, remains a challenge to us. I'm also pleased to announce that we've been able to reduce the call on our balances by 213,000, so they're now down to 173,000. The rest is fairly procedural. Section 3 now has 24 comments, and there are several new sections towards the end of the report. These include Section 23, which has the Scrutiny Committee responses, Section 24, which contains the Strategic Risk Register, which has been updated, Pay Policy, which contains no changes other than the update for the last pay award, Council Tax Reduction Policy, which has no changes other than the £100 discretionary payment. Section 27 is the amendment to extend the terms of an existing loan to the Irmbridge Gorge Museum Trust. Section 28 has a statement on the robustness of the financial strategy and the levels of reserves and balances held by the council, which endorses both of them. There are also new appendices. Appendix 3 has the detailed risk register, which has been considered at the last audit committee meeting. Appendix 10 has the detailed robustness statement. Appendix 14 has the council tax reduction scheme. Appendix 15, the pay policy statement, and Appendix 16, our efficiency strategy. The rest of the papers document previously agreed strategies and updated budget and schemes of work. These include the capital strategy, which is a requirement of the Prudential Code and sets out our high-level overview of the long-term context in which our capital investment decisions are made. This is supported by a detailed capital programme report and the Council's Highways and Transport Capital Programme. Our investment strategy lays out how we meet our statutory requirements, and our Treasury Management Update and Strategy for next year, which have also been considered and approved by the Audit Committee in January. The final part of the budget papers is the Prudential Indicators Report, which sets out a number of technical indicators that we're required to put in place and have in place under the Prudential Code. Overall, the papers are very similar to last year and will go to full council after consideration by this Cabinet. Finally, can I take this opportunity on behalf of the Cabinet to thank all of those staff and managers who've been involved in the compilation of these reports at this very difficult time. Cabinet, the Service and Financial Planning Report has now completed the required period of consultation and feedback. These have been considered and noted, and the following are for your approval and will go to full council on the 4th of March. You are therefore required or asked to approve the recommendations in section 3 of the Service and Financial Planning Report 21 to 22, items 1 to 25. Members are also asked to approve the recommendations contained in the other reports included in this larger report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Can I have a seconder for that, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Richard. And I believe that the chair of the Budget and Business Scrutiny Committee is here. So at this point, I'll hand over to Councillor Stephen Reynolds for his contributions on behalf of his committee before opening up for conversations from cabinet members and group leaders. Councillor Stephen Reynolds, please.
Good morning. Right, on behalf of the Finance and Business Scrutiny Committee, as chair, I would like to thank the Cabinet for this opportunity to support the budget proposals for 2021-22. I would especially like to thank the Chief Financial Officer and his staff for their endeavour and hard work for presenting a well-balanced budget. And considering the severe cuts over the past 10 years of over 126 million, the significant cuts in grants from government and the constraints that the council has had to make throughout this very difficult year of this pandemic is unprecedented. The consensus of the Scrutiny Committee was to support the administration's budget approach to respond to the future of local government finance and what resources may be available to the council in 2022, 23 and beyond, and the uncertainties of the pandemic over the coming year, and no long-term financial certainties being provided by government. The report before you clearly lays out the committee's observations, and I fully support this very robust budget. I open it up for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds, and thank you to you and to the committee for the work that you've done in terms of the process around the budget. It's always good to work with scrutiny in a proactive way, in the way that we've done it this time. Are there any questions or comments from cabinet members, please, either on the report presented by Councillor Evans or the comments made by the Scrutiny Committee, please? I'll go to David Wright, please.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to say that this has been an incredibly difficult year, and I wanted to thank Councillor Evans and Councillor Reynolds for their incredible hard work on this, and the Officer Corps. Really, it's unprecedented times. And having said that, I think we've done incredibly well. And if you look at our council tax proposals, we're still one of the lowest council tax authorities amongst unitary authorities right across the country. And if you look at the Midlands in particular, our Band D council tax is £420 less, £420 less than Tory Walsall, and £90 less than Tory Shropshire. And I just do think people need to reflect on that a little bit, in the sense that we have a very robust financial strategy. None of us want to increase council tax. It's a situation where we've had to put proposals forward to increase council tax. If the government came forward with a package on the back of COVID that held down council tax, that would be very much appreciated. Unfortunately, their rhetoric means that they pass the blame once again onto local government. What we actually need is a government that's more proactive in terms of supporting us in relation to council tax, and also considers more widely our financial management strategy. And I think authorities like ourselves that perform well, we ought to be rewarded for that rather than penalised. And I just do think people need to think a little about the fact that their council tax is one of the lowest in the West Midlands. It's one of the lowest for unitary authorities right across the country, as I've said. And as I repeat, I think it's due to the hard work of both our Cabinet colleagues, Councillor Reynolds and the office, of course. So a thank you for me. And let's keep our finances stable. We have been doing that. If you look at authorities across the country, there is real concern in relation to many councils. We're not in that position, and I think we should be very, very proud of that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wright. Can I go to Councillor Carter?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'd like to echo some of what Councillor Wright has just said. Really, big thank you and well done to Councillor Evans, Ken Clark, the finance team, David Sidaway, the chief exec, and Cabinet colleagues. Really, it's been a really interesting year. But if you think about it, not a lot has changed, because for 11 years now we've had this economic uncertainty around the local government finance system, and almost all of that, without exception, has been brought about by a blatant disregard for local councils by Conservative government. And it was actually, I found the irony in it, when actually local government was the first people that the government had to turn to at the start of this pandemic. I know the pandemic has thrown a different dynamic into the fray over the past 12 months, but actually some of the core components of that disregard haven't changed in many senses. You know, we've seen huge cuts to core funding from government that we've received over the years, and I know Councillor Doug Moore's comments on the last item, but actually government almost every year has had to be brought kicking and screaming to the party. It's not some kind of conscious effort on their part. They've been forced to make decisions to make sure that there's a semblance of decent funding for local services. They've changed formulas to grant schemes that we received that clearly they've been weighted in favour of Tory areas. And so have put Telford Wrekin and areas like Telford Wrekin at a disadvantage. There's been this crass attempt, as Councillor Wright said, to shift the blame and the burden, the blame for cuts and the burden of the cuts onto local elected officials and the local taxpayer through council tax rises. And then somehow people like David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Sunak, Sajid Javid, Hammond, all somehow taking the credit for extra funding to local services, when actually it's the real stretch pockets of the local council taxpayer that have actually bailed us out time after time. And all the while, actually, one of the most stark things that you read within this report is that there hasn't been a comprehensive spending review for 6 years now, and that means that we're always dealing in this world of uncertainty. And actually, we now need a period of certainty more than ever before. We need at least a medium-term funding plan from the government. So actually, if you take all that into account, it's a miracle that we still stand here today. And really, that's only through our own discipline over a decade now, and our own pragmatism and our own creativity and passion to keep doing what's right by our local residents, really. There's a couple of things, particularly within the report, that I'd like to highlight and I think are worth mentioning. First of all, that record investment into roads and footpaths, that's £50 million over 4 years. That's into potholes, resurfacing, drainage structures, street furniture, road safety. We've always prioritised that. It comes as part of the package of being a growing borough, but we've always prioritised that. We've invested over and above, time after time, over above the sort of seed corn that the government chucks to us on an annual basis. It always comes with a caveat that we need to do more, but actually we've always been committed to that. And only yesterday we received the real kick in the guts that government will cut that funding even by 20% yesterday. I'm old enough to remember Conservative opposition members on this council actually wanting to cut our funding for local roads. It seems London have been listening to the sort of that nonsense, really, by announcing that cut yesterday. And I think anyone who's already aggrieved by the fact that we send tens of millions to London in road excise duty to repair our roads, fix our roads, resurface our footpaths, a fraction of that is returned to us. Even less is going to be returned to us now in Telford and Wrekin to help that. Ultimately, though, while the government may go back on their promises, we won't, and we'll continue to invest through this report. We'll continue to invest where it matters most, whether that's resurfacing schemes in Donington, safety schemes in Dorley and Aqueduct, or drainage schemes in Bolus. We will keep doing as much as we can. The second thing I think that's worth pointing out in here is the record investment to our local high streets as well. That Pride in our High Streets programme has been running for a number of years now. Again, it was our own discipline that enabled us to be able to invest in that. We saw it as a priority. We saw investing in local high street businesses, helping them start up, helping them relocate to our high streets, giving them that business support as a priority. It's a nationally recognised programme now, and I'm absolutely delighted that we're going to continue to invest in that, particularly in a post-pandemic world where the high street and the regeneration of high streets is going to be vitally important. So, you know, just to finish, I'm really proud we're able to present this report again, proud that we're still standing, proud that we're able to do so with an element of positivity. And as I say, a big thanks to Councillor Evans and the whole team who've been able to put this together for us.
Thank you very much. Paul Watling.
Thanks, Leader. Yes, I'd like to echo the statements before. Thanks to Ray and to Ken and the team because of the hard work, especially during this year. What I wanted to talk about was the engagement sessions Ray and I did with the voluntary and parish and town councils, with the voluntary sector and the parish and town councils. And it's amazing that our partners can see that working together we can make a difference to our communities, and the support for this budget from them has been quite amazing, really. I mean, it's incredible that the government puts the burden to sort the adult social care issues out on the local taxpayer instead of dealing with it as they should do at Westminster, and making sure that the funding is there for us to actually get that process right. Again, I'd echo what people have said before about how working together and thinking about this as a long-term project, as we have done, you know, the stability of this budget at a time of crisis is quite astounding, really. And I'm proud of our officers for getting us to this position, as well as our strategy for moving it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Councillor Shirley Reynolds.
Thank you, Leader. I echo many of the comments that have already been said. I'm extremely proud of the work of our administration. We're providing the vision and the steer during very, very difficult times. This financial strategy has got our residents at its heart, and we are honouring our election commitment to protect, care and invest across the borough. We're protecting our children across the borough with our outstanding children's services provision. We are caring for elderly residents with our continued investment in adult social care, and we're investing in our communities in many, many ways. In extra investment in our schools, in housing through New Place, providing quality, affordable homes with security of tenure, and in our neighbourhoods with our Safer Communities initiatives and our businesses throughout the borough. Our market towns are being supported in very extremely difficult times, helping them to diversify through Pride in Your High Street funding, and all of this is being delivered by our administration. Over 10 years of very prudent financial management has enabled this strategy to continue, and we have before us today a very sound budget in times of severe financial pressures, and after cuts of 126 million. We have got to be proud of that, and I think our residents recognise the work that's being done by our team. The government promised to put its arms around us and said it would do whatever it takes. Well, we have done whatever it takes to support our residents, but we're still waiting for the government to deliver fully. Our administration will continue to protect, care and invest in our borough, and we will continue to do whatever it takes, and we mean that. I fully support this budget. I'd like to thank the Director of Finance and his team, Councillor Ray Evans for all her hard work, Scrutiny for giving this such good oversight, to deliver our vision and to honour the manifesto pledge to the residents of Telford and Wrekin. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Are there any comments, other comments from Cabinet members before I go to group leaders? No, in which case, Bill, you've indicated, I'll come to you.
Thank you, Leader. Whilst I acknowledge that we are the lowest council tax in the West Midlands and in many unitary authorities, it just seems, how can I put this nicely, utterly immoral and abhorrent that this local authority, along with all local authorities up and down the land, are being forced at a time when we've got COVID still going on, people are out of work, we're in the middle of a recession, their incomes are not rising hardly at all, and yet we're being forced to tax them by an additional 5%. It's not just what we've been forced to tax them this year, we've been forced to tax them in previous years for less services, and we're going to probably be forced to tax them above and above inflation for the next few years. This is the government's strategy. The government has acknowledged, as many people do, that there are growing needs in all communities, particularly with adult social care, which I'm absolutely dead chuffed that this authority is meeting and meeting well. And we're offering excellent services in both of those areas, being adjudged from outside. So we're delivering to our community, but we are being forced to tax them when they can least afford it. This is just so totally wrong. Sorry, it just gets my goat, it really does. I've never known anything like it. It's a stealth tax. I think Gordon Brown was once tarred with that brush. He came up with all the different ways to raise tax that hopefully will go underneath the radar. And here we are, we've got the Tory government coming forward and applying it this way. I think in a little report within what you've just reported, it said that in the past, our total funding was 45% came from council tax. And up and down the country now, it's over 60%. The government are trying to take credit for allowing us to build on these services, but by taking more money from the local people. If you're an old fogey like me, you remember the lovely stories of Robin Hood. Here we are, we're playing the role of the Sheriff of Nottingham, saying, oh, you're going to have less, and I'm going to tax you more for it. That's the reality of what's going on with our local services, and it's utterly immoral. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Nigel, you haven't indicated, but you wanted to contribute.
I did. Here, but,
okay, if you put your hand up next time, then. But over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the finance team as well for it's not easy when nobody can meet together. Oops. Sorry. Is that a pound in the pot or something?
That's Nigel.
So I would like to thank Kennedy's team for all the hard work that they've done. I mean, my two major concerns with the budget is that once this goes through, then borrowing is going to top £465 million, which is a hell of a lot of money, and quite honestly, I think in these financial uncertain times, I think that we need to be careful as to how much debt we burden the council with. I accept I note that Councillor Evans says there's difficulty in paying council tax, and really that should be recognised in the budget. It seems a bit strange to me that a Labour council is actually choosing not to help hard-pressed families during the pandemic. Yeah, taxes do need to rise, but there are options available to try and ease the burden during this particular time. I mean, Shropshire Council have not put in the full 2% up. They're only putting it up by 1%, so that would help in the short term. You can also the 3% increase for the adult social care can be phased over 2 years, and that would help in the short term as well. So I think during this sustained period of financial hardship, it seems a bit bizarre that we're not trying to help people at least get over the immediate effects of the pandemic, and really I think that really that's the way that we should be going. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. I haven't made my contribution yet, so I'll do that at this point before I bring Ray back in. I think firstly, what I'd like to do is start back in 2010, when the Conservative government came to power on a platform of austerity, and they told us that cuts to council services was a necessity in order to deal with the budget. And we were hammered as a result, disproportionately compared to any other council, any other government department, with cuts going into 50 and 60%. Well, this isn't about austerity now, but councils are still being attacked. We know that if you are Serco or your G4S, then you can be given a £22 billion cheque to run a test, trace and isolate system that doesn't work. That if you go to a Conservative Party fundraiser, you're able to get lucrative contracts. And if you have the luck of being able to drink in the same pub as the health secretary, then you get a PPE contract. So this is about choices that the government make. It's about choices that the government have decided that actually what they want councils to pay more and to save more and to cut more. Every council in the country is putting their council tax up significantly. It's all very well, Nigel, talking about Shropshire Council. Shropshire Council have are charging a higher council tax rate before they even start. And what I can tell you is that the residents of Shropshire will be paying significantly more council tax after the next set of the May council elections, because what they are doing in Shropshire is a political game by deferring increases in council tax to get them through the election. I do hope the good people of Shropshire can see through that. We have got the lowest council tax in the Midlands, as has already been said. We charge less than the most Conservative councils across the country. So the line the Conservative Party trot out that Labour councils cost more just simply doesn't work here in Telford and Wrekin. And back in the day, when the council tax was first designed, it was a compact between local residents paying for local services, topped up by government through a core grant. And what's happened is the government have taken that core grant away and is expecting taxpayers to pay more and get less. And what we've tried to do every year for the last 10 years that Labour has run this council is ensure that we are looking to income generate, looking to be more efficient, looking at ways in which we can deliver services better. And unlike many other parts of the West Midlands, we don't pay on the whole for car park charges. We don't pay for our green waste to be collected, and we have the lowest council tax too. Now, I don't ask for any thanks from residents of Telford and Wrekin for those three facts, because I think they should expect us as a council to be delivering that for them, and we will always try and deliver the best value for money. In terms of support, as part of the budget that Nigel didn't want to highlight, is a doubling of hardship funding for the least people able to pay, and we will also go further in the coming weeks to support those people who are paying less council tax as a result of the policies that we're coming forward on. I'd also want to say that in terms of borrowing, it's always the good old hobby horse of the Conservatives here in Telford and Wrekin to jump on borrowing. But the simple reality is that if you reduce borrowing as this council, then you either have to cut more or you have to raise council tax more. So which are you going to do? We only borrow to invest. We only borrow in order to return an income. Things like new place, things like the solar farm, things like investment to reduce costs. That's how we borrow. And if you don't borrow, you then have to find the money from elsewhere. And isn't it astounding that 4 years in a row we have no alternative budget from either of the opposition parties here at Telford and Wrekin? They want to, in particular the Conservative Party, want to sit on the sidelines and pick up the scabs rather than put anything positive forward. But let me make this very last-ditch offer to the government, which is if they come forward with a grant for councils to freeze council tax, then we will accept that grant and we'll rework our budget so we don't have to pass on the council tax to our residents. Let's be very clear. This is what happened in 2010, in 2011, in 2012 under a Conservative Prime Minister, David Cameron. He provided grants to councils so councils didn't have to increase their council tax. If the Conservative Party do that, as Keir Starmer is asking for today, then we will rework our budget and we will freeze council tax this year. So the offer, Nigel, and to Lucy Allen, to Mark Pritchard, to the Conservative government is there. You bring forward the money, we'll freeze our council tax. If you don't, then let's be very clear. This is what you're asking us to do, expecting us to do, and demanding that we do that. Thank you very much. So it's been moved, it's been seconded. All those, I'll take silence. Oh, sorry, Ray, forgive me. Ray, did you want to come back on any of the points?
I couldn't top that, Sean.
Thanks. I'll take silence as approval. Thank you very much. Lovely. That then goes to full council. Okay, we'll go to item 7, which is the procurement update. Over to Ray.
Thank you, Leader. So the report highlights the changes to public procurement regulations as a result of us leaving the EU. The key change is the need to advertise in Find a Tender rather than the official journal of the European Union. State aid rules in their current form no longer exist, but there are obligations in various internal treaty agreements that we will need to comply with, and a report on this will be brought to Cabinet shortly. The other thing to note is that the government have issued a green paper for consultation on the new proposed public contract regulations. The council procurement officers are part of a regional and national feedback group and will respond to the paper, linking those responses, of course, to the council's priorities. It's worth noting that the following are suggested in that paper: that buyers should be permitted to include economic, environmental and social considerations when buying, together with wider government priorities when they award contracts. It's also proposals to cut red tape so that there is better access to small and medium enterprises. And there is also a proposal to reform extreme urgency grounds, creating new and more clearly defined grounds for crisis procurement. Appendix A is the usual forward view of procurements that are planned for the next 6 months. And can I just finally finish by thanking the procurement team for this report and their continuing hard work in this area. Cabinet, you're asked to note the procurement update in this report and to note the procurement intentions document.
Thank you, Ray. Is that seconded? Thank you, Shirley. Lovely. Any comments or questions from Cabinet members? No. Any comments from opposition leaders? Nigel?
Yeah, just a quick one there. I noticed in there that there's replacement fleet buses in the procurement. I just want to guarantee that with regards to the environmental considerations that they are either fully electric or hybrid, because it doesn't state that in the report.
Thank you, Nigel. Ray or another Cabinet member? Sarah? Do you want to come up on that point? I think the intention will be for that to happen. But of course, Nigel, what we're not going to do is open a blank check for such provision. We'll want to drive out value. But Sarah, I'll come over to you.
Thanks very much. Yes, we've been working with various organisations to have a look at how we can manage the electric vehicles. It's a different one from having the small ICT vans that we can move around, but definitely our transport team have been looking at that over the past few months. And as you can see, I think the deadline shifted a little bit because it's taking us longer to find something that is fit, form and functional and also affordable. So yes, it's very much on our agenda and something that we would really like to do if we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline, did you want to come in?
Thanks, Leader. Sarah's covered it really. I think it is that issue around actually what's available in terms of fully electric vehicles. That obviously fully electric for smaller vehicles, they're much more readily available, much more reliable. Larger vehicles, the technology isn't quite there, and certainly there are trials ongoing in other areas. And as Sarah said, that's something we're keeping our eye on. And it's something we hope to achieve, but we've got to make sure that what we purchase functions properly and serves our needs. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, thank you very much. There's nobody else indicating. It's been moved, it's been seconded. I'll take silence as agreement. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Sarah. We'll move on to item 8 then, which is creating a better borough, the Telford land deal update. Councillor David Wright and Councillor Carter. I think David's going to kick us off on this, though.
Yes, thank you, Leader. This is a sign of a business-winning Labour council. Put simply, the land deal is a unique tripartite partnership which delivers land in Telford for employment, retail and housing development. And we very much appreciate the constructive partnership we have with both the LEP and Homes England within the land deal. Now, if you look at the report, you can see that the deal secures new high-skilled local jobs. It creates growth and security in the local supply chain, and it delivers new homes. And these outputs are central to our strategy of protecting, caring and investing in order to create a better borough. And the results really do speak for themselves. Through the land deal up to the end of 2019-20, the borough has seen the development of 24 commercial sites and 14 sites for residential development, delivering 753 new homes and enabling 1,389 new jobs. And cumulatively, we brought forward 23 hectares of brownfield land for development. And the deal has delivered a gross sales income of £31.4 million and attracted private sector investment of over £254 million. Now, let's stop a second and just think about that figure, easily passed over quickly. £254 million. Now, these developments generate business rates also, circa 2.5 million, and council tax of just under £1 million. So our approach here provides jobs and homes for local people. Now, the council's cumulative profit share to date has been £3.8 million. During 2019-20, we delivered 3 commercial sites and 4 residential sites, securing 275 jobs and 136 new homes. And in this financial year, we aim to deliver 4 commercial and 8 residential sites. During the first 5 years of the land deal and up to the end of 2019-20, investment through the deal has supported the development of 23.1 hectares of land, brownfield land. Now, page 333 of the report pack, interesting to say page 333, shows the range of recent investment at places like T54, Horton Wood, Nye Park, Wellington and Prize-Lee. And I'd also draw members' attention to the case study with Kenza Creative. And perhaps I'll leave the last word, if you like, to Scott Clark, who's the MD at Kenza. And he says, Kenza has grown significantly year on year, quickly reaching the point where we can't squeeze any more people into our former office space. Our new office has not only provided an opportunity for us to grow as a business, but also for us to be able to take on new staff. Without the move to Horton Wood West and the support that Telford and Wrekin Council, Estates and Investment Team and Business Support Team has given, our business wouldn't be where it is today. So an incredible success story, and I move the report.
Lee, I'll come to you for seconding and any comments you want to make.
Yeah, not a lot to add to that. Councillor Wright has summed it up. Fantastic success story. Unique partnership first, I think, a deal of its kind signed in the whole country. And it was signed by Labour, instigated and signed by our Labour Council. We had the determination and the vision to bring the partnership together, get it signed, and get land that a lot of it brownfield that stood empty for decades. Useful to our communities, whether that be by through business and new business facilities, state-of-the-art business facilities, or new homes, good quality homes for local people to live in. It's been key to helping us really punch above our weight in terms of our growth. Over the years, we've been the place to come to do business, and I'm sure it will be key to that, a good foundation block in terms of our key to growing in this first phase of the post-pandemic recovery. So brilliant success story. Well done to everyone who, as I say, instigated it, signed it, and has seen a job through, got the job done, and an excellent report.
Thank you, Lee. Carolyn?
Thank you. Yeah, obviously we spent a lot of time so far in the meeting discussing the council's finances and the context within they sit within the national political decisions around finance. And here is, we are making our own political decisions about our finances and how we invest our resources. And what we're doing, as Councillors Carter and Wright have outlined, is, we're investing in things that will actually generate jobs and homes. Because once people have actually got a job and a decent home, then they've got money in their pocket to then spend in the high street, supporting more jobs, and really keeping our economy vibrant and secure. And that's what this is all about. And I think it's a really innovative and fantastic scheme I think one of the things that it isn't outlined in the report, because this is obviously about the investment land, but the partnership that we have in relation to the land deal allows us also to identify land that isn't suitable for employment or housing development, that we can set aside for habitat creation, that we can set aside for biodiversity gains and climate change mitigation, and that's all part of this as well. So I think it's a really fantastic scheme, and this is actually how we survive both the COVID and Brexit recessions that we will no doubt feel, and keep our local residents in work, in good homes, and in a vibrant community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. There's nobody else indicating to speak on this report. Sorry, Nigel. Sorry, Nigel, you're on mute.
There's another pound in the pot. Yeah, I mean, the land deal has been a success. There's no doubt about that, and I do hope that it continues. I mean, obviously, regarding the impact of the pandemic and Brexit, the main thing is that all these units are fully occupied. I mean, the last thing that we want is to end up having liability and difficult to get them occupied. So the main thing is that I would advise treading cautiously, because we don't exactly know what the financial and the business what it's going to be like in the future. As I say, regarding the recovering from the pandemic and coming out of Brexit.
Thank you, Nigel. David, did you want to come back on that, and then we'll move on to the next report?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do think that Nigel raised an important point, but there is significant demand, and I chair the land deal board, and we are seeing significant levels of demand still for land that's coming forward within the town. So that's really, really positive. If you look up at Horton Wood, we have one of the largest speculative private sector developments ever undertaken in the borough. So that's the private sector showing confidence in the market within the borough, and that's really, really positive. We need to bring forward a mix of types of units, so smaller scale units for businesses to move and relocate and grow. And one of the real successes of the land deal has been that it's enabled companies to remain in Telford. So there are numerous examples within the report where companies have said to us, if we hadn't had the option here, we would have moved somewhere else because we need to grow. So it's not just about bringing in new companies. We've been incredibly successful in bringing in massive new investment, particularly from abroad. But we've also enabled local companies to grow. And the Kensington example was a good one because it's a local company that was looking for a site that it could expand into. And I think that's one of the real positives of the process as well. So it's about ensuring that local companies that are doing superbly well locally stay in our area. And it's not just about bringing in external investment, although we welcome that as well.
Lovely. Brilliant. That's a really good conversation on that report. It's been moved. It's been seconded. Again, I'll take silence as approval. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the Telford Growth Fund, creating a better borough. Apologies, I think, is this Lee first? Yes, Lee, to you, please.
Thank you, Leader. I just, once again, the Growth Fund, this report notes significant achievements of the fund. I think when we talk about the Growth Fund, it's worth restating exactly what it is. It is this administration, or Labour administration's £50 million investment in attracting and retaining business, creating conditions for business to grow, helping to create and retain local jobs, and generate an ongoing income for council to support frontline services, which otherwise would have faced cuts because of ongoing government funding cuts. It's also worth restating that this fund has been consistently and vehemently often opposed by opposition. And I think, again, just to think about that for a second, we've had opposition politicians in this borough opposing investment into attracting business, creating jobs and generating income to protect frontline services. I've got a real issue with that, I'm afraid. A key part also of making this funding work has been our conscious decision as an administration, as a council, to retain architects, engineers, highways, property and other experts to help us move quickly to seize opportunities when they arise. Again, that's something that would have been in doubt if we'd have listened to opposition plans and taken a different course in terms of our organisation and their often their demands to downsize our organisation in terms of the number of and range of people that we employ. It's played a massive role in terms of keeping Telford and Wrekin as a place to go for business and a place to stay for business. And that can't be understated. We really do punch above our weight when it comes to that ability to attract and retain business. The report outlines a number of achievements that we've seen, hundreds of thousands of square feet of state-of-the-art new premises, which has been built to demand and is full today as we speak. It's generated a gross return of 7.2%. It's created over 1,000 jobs. It's protected at least 250 jobs. Within the report, we've got some examples of some of the key developments from Nye Park, which is a start park. And again, let's not understate the significance of that. It's one of only 3 schemes in the country that have been promoted by the Department of International Trade. We've got Rosewoods at Hortonwood, Filter Mist. We've got examples of the first small business units that were built in a generation and that are full. And whilst others have spent their time hand-wringing and being cautious and opposing this, we basically got on and done the job through this growth fund. And that's included more recently keeping a watchful eye on what the world will look like and what we think the market will look like and what demand is telling us at the moment in terms of business in the post-pandemic world as we enter that recovery phase. That there have been some tangible benefits for business and their employees that are set out in the report, but none better. I think the MD, I think it is, of Rosewoods within the report sums it up pretty well, where he says that the growth fund has, quote, made sure we can hit the ground running, making the move with minimum disruption and putting us in a place where we can flourish for years to come, unquote. Talking of the post-pandemic world, there is an ask within the report of just over £9 million, allocation of £9 million for the work of the growth fund, and that is particularly to invest in premises for and facilities for small business and industrial units, because at the moment that's where the business world is telling us that demand will be once we enter the post-pandemic world and that recovery phase. I'd like to move the recommendations.
Thank you very much, Lee. Are there any other comments or questions at this point? Richard?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I mean, you know, like the previous report, the growth fund, you know, which has been opposed significantly by the Conservatives at this council, has retained jobs in this town. You know, expansion plans have been supported. We've created bigger, more business rates to the town, and you know, secured over 1,000 jobs. Brought that in, so I think they said secured 250 and another 1,000 jobs. I mean, this is a great fund that brings investment to this town, a Labour council investing in business and supporting local businesses to stay here. And I just feel that the Conservatives should probably try and change their mantra sometimes, because, you know, their continued attacks on borrowing, when this is good borrowing, shows that they're financially inept, really.
Thank you. Nobody else is indicating, so I just want to sum up. This is a significant success story, and the £50 million growth fund was one of the first things that my administration did in 2016, and it has demonstrated a significant benefit to the council's finances, but also jobs being created here in Telford Wrekin. The next big debate in this country will be how the pandemic is paid for, and how the recession, the biggest recession in 300 years, is recovered from. And we've got the highest death rate in the world from COVID-19, and we've got the deepest recession in the world as a result of COVID-19 and the government's handling of it. Let me be very clear on behalf of this administration: whatever business sector you are in, however large, small or medium size you are, whether you're in Telford, in this country or around the world, we want you to come to Telford and Wrekin, and we want you to employ our people. And we will be aggressive, we will be competitive, and we will be eager to win your business, because we want you to come here to create jobs, to create wealth. And as a Labour council, for the last 10 years, we have been a business winning, business supporting council, and we will make no apology for understanding that the wealth creators are the private sector, and we want to work with the private sector to ensure that we can create wealth, create jobs, so that that in turn then creates more jobs. And I think if you look at the work that the local government association is doing to recognise the work that this council is doing, people are starting to wake up to the fact that we've got an exceptionally successful record here in Telford Wrekin, and we'll continue to do that. But we'll continue to do that by taking brave decisions, often in the face of fierce opposition, as we did with the Growth Fund, and then still push on with it, because we want our people to be employed. We want our young people to be employed, and we understand the best way to exercise social mobility is by getting a decent education and a decent job, and that's what we're going to strive through over the next 3 years between now and the next election. That's been moved and seconded. Again, I'll take silence as agreement. That's lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on now to item 10, which is the Telford and Wrekin Safer Communities programme. Richard, over to you.
Thank you, Sean. I'm delighted to bring this overarching paper forward, which sets out a 2-year investment plan for our new Telford and Wrekin Safer Communities programme. Results from the 2020 Telford and Wrekin Residents Survey illustrate that 77% of residents stated they either strongly agree or tend to agree that their neighbourhoods is a safe place to live. However, there are some of our communities that do have crime and antisocial behaviour challenges. If we tackle these localised problems together, then we believe it would enhance community confidence and aspirations while addressing the fear of crime. This council is committed to creating a better borough, and we are working with our partners to reduce crime and provide a safe place for residents to live. In developing the Safer Communities programme, this council is allocating £1 million towards delivery of this borough-wide project. Furthermore, this programme is supported by a further £500,000 from the Police and Crime Commissioner, giving a total project of £1.5 million over 2 years from this April. This has been enabled due to the excellent working relationship the leader of the council has with the current Police and Crime Commissioner. As outlined in the report, some of the recent successes of this effective partnership includes £500,000 joint investment into enhancing our CCTV infrastructure and the new viewing suite in Open Gates, and the £550,000 investment for the Brookside Safer Streets project. This new programme is seeking to provide the foundations to address the root causes of crime and not just the crime itself. The joint investment will focus on key locations, and these will be data-driven. However, I believe that this targeted data-driven approach will benefit the borough as a whole. The Safer Communities programme will work alongside other programmes such as our Stronger Communities programme, Pride in Our High Streets, the Environment and Enhancement Pride Fund, and the jointly funded new community action teams with local parish and town councils to deliver place-based investment that is responding to local needs and priorities. Our Neighbourhood Coordination Officer will work in partnership with the local community, local ward members and parish and town councils to gain their understanding of the challenges and help identify the best use of this funding. They will also commission other council services to work in these priority areas to include, but not limited to, job box, the private sector housing team, and education and family support. This is a whole council approach that seeks to protect, care and invest in our communities to help create a better borough. We will also look to engage the community through volunteering and also support voluntary groups who will operate in the locality to help them continue the work we start. I will bring an annual report to Cabinet to update on the outcomes of this new programme, and I'm keen to get started. I therefore move the recommendations 2.1 to 2.3.
Thank you, Richard. I'll second that as a joint report. I'll just bring my contributions now before I move into Cabinet colleagues' contributions. Firstly, I think this is another example of how the council is moving into an area of discretionary spending to make up for shortfalling in statutory spending. This is another good example of the government talking about police numbers, but then increasing council tax to employ those police numbers. So again, passing the buck down to local taxpayers, and also seeing an erosion of local policing teams, an erosion of the ability for local communities to have a relationship with their local cops on the beat. And this is about working together in a pragmatic way to pick up some of those issues. And I know someone quite famous said this once, but this is about being tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime, and to ensure that we are looking at the reasons why people are committing crime, addressing those issues in a positive, pragmatic way, offering positive diversions and alternatives. looking at ways in which we can use research to be able to reduce the need for people to commit crime. So, for example, we know that poverty is a big driver of crime. So if you are able to provide jobs and employment and training opportunities, then you're able to reduce the need to commit crime. If you look at ways in which you can reduce addiction, then you're able to reduce the reasons for people to commit crime. If you look at positive youth diversion, then you're able to look at ways in which people can reduce crime. If you provide pride in your community, then you create an environment where people are confident to report crime, and people are confident to challenge unacceptable behaviours. So that's where this report and this vision comes from. And I'm delighted that Councillor Ian Priest in Dorley and Aqueduct has lobbied successfully to secure Dorley and Aqueduct to be a part of this scheme. I'm also delighted that Andy Burford and Concepta Gazar worked alongside Councillor Ian Priest, the Deputy Mayor of Great Dorley Town Council, to secure this funding. I'm also delighted that James Lavery and local resident Sophie Thompson secured Donington as an early adopter to this scheme. And I know that there will be further representations from other councillors for this scheme to be extended into those areas. But let's just be very clear of the proactive work that Ian Priest and Sophie Thompson has done on this agenda to make sure that their communities are included in this Safer Communities Fund and before we even get underway. And that's something we need to have proactive, local, positive voices within our communities. Andy Burford.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I mean, I certainly welcome this report. I think it's really good news. It plays to our strengths, doesn't it, as a council, in terms of our partnership working and our links with the voluntary community sector. I think any councillor in the borough will know what a significant issue antisocial behaviour and policing is in their ward, the amount of distress it causes, and the amount of work it causes it creates in terms of following those inquiries up. You've heard me talk here, Cabinet, before about the social determinants of health and about inequalities. This is one of the prime areas that need to be addressed in terms of making those links that the leaders just talked about. It's a welcome report. It's one that I'm proud to say that the councillors that Sean mentions in terms of Dorley and Aqueduct have played a key role in. So I'm looking forward to seeing the outcomes of this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, thanks, Leader. Thank you, Leader, and I welcome this report. This is really positive news for the borough, I think, in terms of how we move forward, because this is not just about regeneration. We've heard from previous reports about how regeneration is across the borough and how that inward investment is there. This is about social regeneration also, and what I love about this report is that there's a balance between both the physical aspects of fighting crime and the social aspects of fighting crime, and it's a real positive approach. I welcome it. I'm looking forward to working with you, Richard, on this programme, and hope it will move forward.
Thank you, Nigel.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, it's great that all the hard work of Police and Crime Commissioner John Campion is being recognised, and from what Councillor Overton says, I think you'll probably be out with him on the campaign trail. I mean, the thing is that it's great that we've got this investment in safer and secure places, and so yeah. So thanks again to John Campion, and I mean, the main thing is that all communities are going to benefit from this, particularly from the rural communities who can very often get left out on these crime initiatives, which seem to be very urban based. There are a couple of councillors that you did forget to mention, Councillor Jay Goff in Donington and Muxton, and also Councillor Kate Barnes, who's also in Dorley and Aqueduct, but I'm sure that was just a little blip on your memory.
Thanks, Nigel. I can assure you that Councillor Jay Goff and Councillor Kate Barnes had absolutely zero to do with this this package of investment, and had zero to do with the fact that Dorian Aqueduct and Donington have been included in the investment that we are talking about today. And any suggestion that they have is wide off the mark. I look forward to seeing the Conservative group voting for the budget, which includes this measure, because of course you can't have it both ways, can you? And just on Police and Crime Commissioner, John and Campy and I do have a good relationship. I did ask him for £1 million to match fund this fund pound for pound. He didn't quite go that far. He gave us £500,000. But called it Sahota said that if he does win the Police and Crime Commissioner election in May, then he'll top it up by an additional 500,000. So let's see what happens in the elections in May. Right, that has been moved and seconded. I'll take silence as approval. Thank you very much. In which case, we'll now move to item 11, which is safer, cleaner neighbourhoods through appropriate use of enforcement powers. Councillor Richard Overton.
Thank you, Sean. As you'll be aware, enforcement is a key priority for this administration, as part of our work to protect, care and invest to create a better borough. This particular report provides an update on the Public Protection Service and the engagement and enforcement activity that have been undertaken during 2020. I would just like to highlight some key figures from the report because there's quite a lot. Our teams have worked with over 430 businesses, both proactively and reactively, sometimes involving joint visits with West Mercia Police to ensure they are compliant with the new COVID restrictions. We've investigated over 5,000 fly tips and issued over 1,000 warnings. Civil parking enforcement, which was successfully adopted on the 31st of January 2020, and our new neighbourhood enforcement officers have issued over 2,500 penalty charge notices for illegal parking offences. Our joint £500,000 investment with the Police and Crime Commissioner into a state-of-the-art CCTV network has seen more than 400 cameras upgraded and now feeding into the new control room. Our trading standards team have responded to more than 450 complaints alleging COVID breaches by residents or businesses. Our licensing team have processed almost 800 licensing applications, many of which are connected to changes brought on by the coronavirus restrictions, as businesses look to provide services via other means. And our food hygiene inspectors are still on track to complete more than 200 inspections of food businesses that were allowed to stay open during the pandemic. I know you will recognise the fantastic work that our teams are delivering, and it clearly demonstrates our commitment to keeping everyone in our borough safe. Sadly, though, fly tipping has become a national problem across the country as well as in our borough. Following the first national lockdown in 2020, a significant amount of fly tipping was seen in many areas. This increase not only placed pressures on limited resources, but also had a significant impact on our environment. We have undertaken targeted interventions during 2020, including work with fast food restaurants to tackle litter in hotspot locations. Our new community action teams will go live this April, and working with town and parish councils will build on our activities undertaken in 2020 around litter and fly tipping to tackle these environmental problems. The development of a new fly tipping strategy will also underpin this work going forward. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the officers for their hard work and commitment during this challenging time, moving quickly to enforce the government's restrictions in relation to COVID-19, while also helping businesses stay open legally and safely when they were allowed to do so. I therefore move the recommendations set in the report 2.1 to 2.3.
Thank you, Richard. Is that seconded? Thank you, Paul. Any comments or questions from Cabinet members? No. Bill Tomlinson.
Thank you, Leader. I very much welcome this report, particularly through the pandemic. I've seen a greater amount of fly tipping in my own ward of Shorebirch, but I have absolute praise for the officers who responded so quickly to make sure that landowners or the council cleared that mess up, and also to find those and investigate those who were the perpetrators of the crime. So I'm really, really pleased with what they've done. And I know that with terms of resources, this is just a thing that local residents want, because they want cleaner areas where we're all going out now more for walks. The last thing we want to see is piles of litter everywhere. The only thing that occurred to me, and forgive me for lateness in thinking about this, this is a good stick to apply, but I just wondered if we could do a little bit more with a carrot. And partly I was thinking of maybe finding it a bit tricky to get rid of bulky items. So I just wonder if the administration could have a look at that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I think before I pass over to Richard, 75% of people can recycle most of their waste at the curbside. and people, on the whole, the vast majority of law-abiding citizens put their recycling out and their waste out every week, either on the red top bin or the recycling bin. We got our HRCs, our house recycling centres, open 7 days a week, 362 days a year, and the vast majority of people play by the rules and they use those facilities that are available to them. The bulk collection that we have here in Telford Wrekin is amongst some of the cheapest against other areas of the country. We do offer discounts to pensioners and those on certain benefits, and we can continue to protect that. But I think it's making sure that we are working with people to do the right thing. Richard, over to you.
Yeah. As you said, Sean, I mean, we do offer discounts on bulk waste collection, and this administration's always been, as its mantra is that we want to be on the side of those people who do the right thing. And that means that, if you do have stuff that you need to get rid of, and there are people who are dumping waste who can afford the bulk waste charges, who aren't doing that. They're just deciding to blight other people's communities because they don't usually dump it in their own communities, they dump it elsewhere. And we will investigate that and we will fine you. And that's the issue, that we will be strong when it comes to enforcement, where people are blighting our communities. The safer communities, when the CAT teams are there also to support residents and to offer the educational support to residents as well, the advice on how the best way to get rid of your waste. But, as I said, this administration's always been key, that enforcement is a key agenda here, where we are on the right side of those people who play by the rules. And we'll continue to do that. And where you don't play by the rules, we will educate first. But when it comes to it, if you are blighting our communities, then you will have an enforcement notice and you will have a fine.
Okay, that's been moved. Second, we'll take silence as agreement. Thank you very much. Move on to item 12, draft learning disability strategy. Councillor Andy Burford.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to be able to announce the launch of the formal consultation around our new learning disability strategy. The process has been delayed somewhat by the pandemic, but it's worth saying that we've learned much during these difficult times that's helped us to refine our approach. I just picked one or two highlights out of this report and this strategy. The report highlights that adults with learning difficulties constitute 27% of all the adults that we support through adult social care. So this is not a small group in terms of our commitment and our work in Telford and Wrekin. It's a very significant and important group. Our key principle of working to promote maximum independence and to lift aspirations for individuals runs right through this draft strategy, as does the recognition that our approach must be personalised. This has been very apparent, for example, as the pandemic has forced changes on the way we operate. Day centres haven't been able to provide a full service. They've provided only a limited service to a small number of individuals. For some, the creative way in which we've had to respond to that situation has lifted and raised new opportunities and possibilities. For others, it's been a real struggle, and our staff have had to work really hard to make sure that there was the right level of support through online working, through outings into the community, through respite, to make sure that people had the right help during the course of the pandemic. But in both situations, we need to think from the individual's point of view in order to provide the most appropriate support and solution. In order to prepare this draft strategy, there's been, as the report says, an engagement during the autumn with users and their families, and you'll see that in para 5.2. We've concentrated on the areas you would expect, the kind of social contact that people have, that their health and their jobs, the respite they need, the friends they need to be in touch with. If you haven't had a chance to read this report, it is very accessible. It's got the words of those users and those carers and those parents there, which gives you a real flavour of the kind of pressures they're under and the kind of things that we can do as a local authority to help. We've got a learning disability partnership board now, which has been really important for us in working up this strategy, and they will be the first to receive the report once it's finalised before it comes back to Cabinet in July. I'm really pleased with the work we've done so far on this, and I endorse the recommendations to approve the formal consultation, which is about to begin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy, and I'll move to Richard to second it and to make a contribution.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, I formally second this report. I'm really delighted to see this report come to Cabinet, because for so long we sort of not through our own means, but sort of institutionalised people by saying they have to go to a day centre, and that's the only sort of support they used to get. Well, people with learning difficulties do have aspirations, and this report helps open them up, because people can volunteer, they can do jobs, they can go in, into workplaces and earn an income. And I really think that, supporting individuals, peer-to-peer if needs be, but also one-to-one work, finding what they want to do, supporting them in the workplace, supporting them to volunteer, and giving them an opportunity to have, that aspiration and to have that normal life that we all have. It's a great report, and it's the way we should be working with everybody, because everybody has aspiration, everybody has a choice in life they wish to make, and this report helps to support those people with learning difficulties.
Thank you, Richard. Eileen?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I really welcome this report, and want to just thank everybody that's been involved in putting this together, this draft strategy. As a mother of a child with a learning disability, I understand the importance of providing the right support in areas like education and employment, housing, making sure people feel respected and listened to, and enabling them to make their own choices in daily life, which I think is really important in this area. So all of these things will make life just that little bit easier for somebody living with a learning disability. So I think this strategy will really help individuals have maximum independence and also improve the outcomes for themselves and their families and carers. So thanks to everybody that's brought the report. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you, Bill.
Yes, I'd love to welcome this report. My sister has severe learning disability, and she's part of an organisation in Birmingham where I think when she was 20, so it's probably been over 40 years, and it's made a huge difference to the quality of her life, meeting people and actually finding some practical things to do. So I welcome any report that can actually enhance the life of people who've got disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and I just hope it achieves what we all want it to achieve. The thing is, there's so many different every individual's different, so I just hope that what comes out of it is diverse enough to capture everybody, so that nobody's missed out at all.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll look forward to the feedback that we receive. Are there, Andy, is anything you want to say in summary, in conclusion?
No, I just welcome the comments that have been made, Leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, then. I'll take silence as agreement, in which case that now brings together to the end of this meeting. Thank you so much for all the contributions. There's some really good things on that report, and I also like to thank all members for the way in which the meeting has been conducted with humour and a bit of rigour and a bit of politics, but done in a very grown up and respectful way. So that's long may that continue. Good afternoon.